So Ready or Not 2 is out in theaters. This is a sequel to one of my favorite films of 2019, one of the most underrated films of all time, that being Ready or Not. I finally had a chance to check this film out on the big screen in theaters. So with that being said, guys, let's go ahead and discuss this film. Let's get into the movie review. Let's go. Ready or Not 2, Here I Come is a horror comedy directed by Tyler Gillette and Matt Bettolini Olpin, and in this film we see moments after surviving an all-out attack from the Domas family, Grace discovers she's reached the next level of the nightmarish game, and this time with her estranged sister Faith at her side. Grace has one chance to survive, keep her sister alive, and claim the high seat of the council that controls the world. 4 rival families are hunting her for the throne, and whoever wins rules it all. So as you heard there, in a John Wick-esque type of way, she is now being hunted by all of these rich and powerful people after surviving the horrific events that took place within the first movie. I love that this film takes place immediately after the first film, so we can just get right into the action here. But I gotta be honest, as a sequel, I was very disappointed. I was not impressed with this film, with someone who absolutely adores the first film, and I have a lot to say about it. But before we go ahead and get into my negatives about this film, let's go ahead and begin. Let's start with my positives for Ready or Not 2. For my first positive with this film, we're going to talk about Samara Weaving as Grace Domas. I think she is the shining light in this movie. She is what holds this entire film together. She is brilliant inside of this film. An amazing performance from Samara Weaving, similar to what we got inside the first film. Her acting ability is thoroughly on display throughout this entire film, and I love when she really gets in her bag and we get the screaming and the yelling scenes. Those are extremely entertaining here. And Weaving playing the bride who has to experience these horrific events all over again. It's happening to her all over again directly after it just happened to her. I thought that aspect was entertaining. I love what she brought to this role, and she's easily the best part of this entire film. Now, there is another actor that I want to highlight here that I thought did an amazing job inside of this movie, and that is Shawn Hatosy as the character of Titus Danforth. Now, he plays a member of one of these, rich and powerful families that are now hunting her inside of this film. He is sort of lined up as one of the main villains here. He gets a lot of camera time. He spent a lot of time with his character, and I absolutely loved his performance too. I thought he did a great job at being the villain inside of this movie, at instilling fear into our 2 main characters, that being Grace and her sister Faith here, which we'll talk about Faith later in this review. But Titus Danforth as a character is believable. He's horrifying, he's frightening, he does some extremely disturbing things here throughout this film, because you are dealing with Satan worshipers inside of this movie at the end of the day. And I think he brought a very strong performance here, a perfect contrast to Grace, Samara Weaving's character. And I found his role extremely entertaining. Now, those are my favorite, 2 performances and 2 actors inside of this movie. Let's move on to another positive that I had with this film. That is the directing and the cinematography. I absolutely loved the choice of shots and symmetry that we got here throughout this film. I think the lighting was great. I think the choice of where this movie is going to take place, the setting was done very well. And in terms of a movie being visually pleasing, I thought we got a lot of that here. So I do want to highlight the 2 directors for that. But let's move on to my next positive with this movie, and that's the violence, okay? Because this is a horror comedy, they do lean a lot into the horror elements here in terms of body horror and injuries and people exploding, blowing up, right? We've seen that in the first film. And Grace the bride just being put through hell once again on display throughout this movie. If you're coming into these films because you love the horror element, it's definitely present once again inside of this movie, and they did a great job with that. Now, moving on to my final positive for this movie, and that would have to be the 3rd act inside of this film, that being the final part of the movie, okay? For a film that I have quite a lot of problems with in the first and second act, I thought the ending was damn good, okay? They really nailed it. It was really solid. You got a lot of payoff for these 2 films being put together as a whole. It was extremely satisfying. You got a fantastic ending for these characters, and again, I can't go into it too much because of spoilers, which we may or may not talk about later on in this video, but I'll just say I was thoroughly impressed, okay? They did it justice. I was happy with the ending that we got here in this movie. A lot of this film left me not happy with the direction in which we were going here, but I'm glad to say that this movie does end on a high note, and they managed to find a satisfying conclusion for this film. Now, with that being said, those are my positives for this film. And now we have to talk about what I really want to discuss, which is my negatives for the Ready or Not 2 movie. For my first negative with this film, we're going to discuss the character of Faith Macaulay, played by Katherine Newton. Now, no disrespect to this actress, okay? I gotta say that before we talk about the performance, but I thought it was a terrible performance. I thought it was such a poor addition to this film. It felt very unnecessary and very out of character. Okay, especially considering they're going through these, horrific events together a lot throughout this film. And for some very strange, very weird reason, she seems to be getting an absolute kick out of her sister going through these horrific events. It makes no sense to me, okay? We see Grace get beaten up a lot throughout this film, at one point in particular, in very, very minor spoilers. But she gets an injury. She gets pretty much like a stake through her shoulder. And as she's trying to remove it, as they're trying to, get rid of this wound or patch up this wound, you could say, Faith seems to be trying her best to hold back a smile, hold back a laughter. She doesn't feel empathetic at all or sympathetic at all towards her sister's cause. It feels like the wrong direction here for the performance, especially considering this film in general. The big message here that they're trying to do is this whole sisterhood theme, right? That's sort of the main theme for this movie, which again, I thought was a very poor direction choice for this movie and for the sequel to what I thought was a brilliant first film in Ready or Not 2019. I don't want to go in on Faith too much here because there is more negatives with this movie. So let's move into my next negative for this film. And that would be that the first and second act are terrible. Okay, I love that this movie picks up and starts directly after the first film. I thought that was a cool choice from the director, but outside of that, writing wise, this is a very poor introduction of all of these different families. It felt very John Wick-esque. She damn near has a bounty on her head, and now all of these, rich assassins are coming to take her out and hunt her. I didn't like how that felt. A lot of these different assassin groups, these different families that want to be at the high table now, felt like throwaway characters. They felt uninspiring. The only highlight there being the Danforths. That was the only good family here out of all the new villainous additions to this movie. And outside of the third act, this film is so poorly written. To be quite honest, it just comes across like this didn't need to be created at all. I mean, we have a perfect film with the original movie, and it just feels like a sloppy tack on to the first film and this sequel, one that we definitely did not need. And like they're just grasping at straws, trying their best to come up with a sequel by any means necessary. That's the feeling I got here after watching this film. Now, those are my negatives with this movie. Let's go ahead and move into my overall review for Ready or Not 2. Guys, I was thoroughly disappointed with this sequel. It felt so unneeded, so unnecessary. A lot of poor writing decisions and choices from these characters. And Faith in general for a character felt very poorly written. It felt like they didn't really know what to do with her character. The performance came across weird. It came across unempathetic. And though the setting for this movie is good, some of the directing and the choice of cinematography is good. And at times, especially with the high amounts of violence, you are somewhat thoroughly entertained. The sisterhood direction was a very poor choice. The sister character in general was not good at all. These other villains in this movie were not good at all. And the true saving grace inside of this movie, no pun intended, was Grace herself. Okay, the bride, Samara Weaving, brilliant performance as always. She's a brilliant actress. And then we get an amazing underrated performance out of the Titus Danforth character played by Shawn Hatosy. I think he was very strong inside of this movie and one of the main pillars holding this film up. And somehow, even though the beginning and the middle part of this movie are very sloppy, they somehow managed to save it in the end with this third act. I thought the third act was very entertaining, very good, and really what I wanted to see out of this movie from the beginning is kind of everything we got in the third act. So with that being said, guys, let's go ahead and drop my official rating for the Ready or Not 2 Here I Come movie. If I had to rate this film, I would go ahead and give it a 5 out of 10. It gets the 5 out of 10. I was very disappointed with this film, and I cannot recommend that you go see this in theaters. If you want to watch this movie, just wait to watch it at home. That would be my recommendation. Those are my thoughts on this film. I'd love to know your thoughts on this film down in the comment section down below. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? I know this is going to be a very unpopular opinion because the audience score is currently sitting at a 90%, which is higher than the original film's audience score. How the hell? I don't know. And then the critic score is sitting at about a 75%. So it seems like everyone outside of me, for the most part, seems to be enjoying this film. So let me know, did you enjoy it? Did you hate it? Let me know all that down in the comment section down below. If you don't know what we do here on Demigod ENT, we do film, TV, and pop culture based content. So if you're interested in this type of content, in the right place, hit subscribe, hit the like button if you enjoyed this video. I'll catch you in the next one, guys. Peace.